All right. Hello, everybody. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am so very excited and so happy today. I am chatting with catching up with we've interviewed before, but so this is awesome to a follow-up interview with the one and the only, the legendary Demolition Man, Tony Dolan of Venom Inc. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good, and it's nice to catch up with you again. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good. It's getting a bit colder now, with the winter coming, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. It's been a little chilly here as well. Yeah, probably
Yeah,
around the well, I guess I gotta see if I can convert the math. Since we
pretty.
go by Fahrenheit here, so about -7
Yeah, yeah.
Celsius is kind of where
Either
we're.
way, either way you do the conversion, it's freaking cold, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I saw Buffalo on TV the other day, and it was like under 6 feet of snow or something. So I'm like, oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah, winter's definitely come.
Yeah. We've only had a little bit of snow here in Utah, but it's still chilly, so that's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, when I used to, when I used to live up in Windsor there, it was kind of would get a bit around the Detroit region, but if we were getting it there, you knew if you once you got up into that snow belt into round about London, Ontario, that was it. It was white out all the time. So,
Oh
yeah,
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 brutal.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what you have going on right now. Yes, some big, yes, indeed. Got my vinyl copy right here.
Ah,
Uh,
ah,
so,
cool.
yeah, I mean, for me, definitely, and I know for a lot of people, highly anticipated, release this year came out on September 23rd, I think, right? So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
just 2 months old. And I have to say, Tony, it exceeded my expectations by leaps and bounds. I cannot stop listening to this album. It just fucking kills.
Good. I
Um,
thank you, man. Thank you
yeah,
so much. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
everything I wanted from a Venom Inc. album. I mean, it's what a great sophomore album. I mean, an Ave is an amazing album, and I mean, I know you guys are amazing musicians. But like, that's going to be tough to top that album, and you guys nailed it. I mean, you did it. It's so good.
Well, to hear that, it means so much to us, because when we didn't kind of plan Harvey, as you know, it wasn't a plan to do an album, and we ended up doing it, and we didn't try and copy anything or plagiarize ourselves. We just had to take who we were and what we liked and what we were doing, and so we kind of did it that way. And 5 years between albums again wasn't a plan.
Yeah.
Just the live thing took over. Then Abaddon departed us, and then Jeremy Kling came in as War Machine, and so we had to keep that and keep it oiled, if you like. So we would just live, live, live. That's what we were doing, and we had, the advantage is that there's such a catalog, such a litany of great music
Yeah.
that 40 years later, it's like, why are you doing a new album? It's like, well, we don't need new songs. We don't need any more songs. We've got plenty we haven't played yet. So
All right.
let's just get through some of those. But, I think we hadn't realized the time gap. And then, at the end of Wacken 2019, I had to have a hip operation. We took some time out for me to recuperate. And it was like, well, while we're going to be sitting down, why don't we just start writing for the new album? And then the idea was we would write. I'd go to Portugal. We'd complete everything, and then maybe have it out February, March 2020, and then go back on the road. But of course, pandemic put pay to all of that,
Yeah.
and so we couldn't get to each other. So it was kind of, well, why don't we just, we've fortunately all three of us have our own studio capacity, so we can all record from home. We can do this zooming and FaceTime and Teams, so it's not like we can't see each other or hear each other or connect with each other. So let's just do it that way. And initially it was the idea that probably we'd end up releasing in the summer, because then the world would come back and we could go on tour with it.
Yeah.
And it became very apparent very quickly that wasn't going to be the case. So I kind of put the brakes on and said, look, we don't always get a time. No band gets a time. Usually when they're on the road, they're writing all the time,
Yeah.
and but you have to kind of find the gaps in between touring to sit down and record everything, and then start to make the record and artworks and all of that. And I just thought, well, we have a perfect opportunity here to not just take our time to write until we're happy, to think about the ideas, to kind of produce the whole thing, and so that at the end of the day we get exactly what we want, the way we wanted it. If people like it or don't like it, that's how it is. But at least we can produce something very honest, very us, and that we feel this represents what we are, and take our time doing it. The label was magnificent. I pointed out that, if we put an album out, in March or April 2020, and we can't play a show till 2021 or 2022, then it's going to be an old album. We're going to be looking for new material. So why don't we just take our time, and then when we think the world's coming back, then we can put it out and we can go out and play the album, which is kind of how it worked out. So yeah, it was good. But I think the addition of Jeremy with the live drumming, the way we it manifested itself was, we always try and push each other, and it just had that organic, feel. It was like it was real, like we were in the same room at the same time. And all those albums I love from the 70s and the early 80s were done like that. The band was in there recording, and you can feel that atmosphere. And that was a key to this album, was to get the listener to feel like it was their band and you were in that place with us, as frantic as it is. So I think we managed to get there with it, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, if I didn't know, having talked to all three of you, that you were recording this separately, I would think it was recorded live in studio, as a band. I was curious, did you find that, I mean, with technology now, with Zoom and Teams and things, was it tricky? Was it frustrating sometimes? I mean, I'm really curious about kind of in terms of like trying to rehearse. Was that tricky?
Well, it's kind of how we've been doing it, since we began. Mantis moved to Portugal. Abaddon was up in Newcastle. Before that was Empire. Jackson was up in Newcastle. I was in London. Francesco Frollo we used as a drummer for Empire. He was in Italy. So we were constantly file sharing, just using that technology to be able to share ideas, get input and stuff. But I think in a way it was just easy. We still had the same discursive points. If you're playing in a room and you're just throwing ideas around, you might catch a riff or catch an idea and go, oh, wait, that bit. Why don't you do this here and this there? And we did exactly the same thing. I guess the true nature of the organic came from the approach. We were free to be ourselves. So as a unit, we play together, but each one of us is an individual musician in our own right. So we can perform to our ability, to our style. And we didn't want to cap that at all. So we didn't want to direct it in a particular way. So, for example, the notes that Jeremy got from performance was feel the music. I just said, just feel it. If you feel it and you naturally want to do that with your gut instinct, just do it. We can look at it later and go, oh, maybe we should try this or this, but just go with your instinct on it, which is very much what I did. And again, Jeff did. We composed, I think, 24 songs in total.
Oh, wow.
We narrowed it down to 12. 6 of them were Mantis compositions, 6 of them were my compositions. And, when we were passing tracks back and forth, it was just like, play it how you feel it, and that becomes a huge advantage to the end product, because if you have a drummer like Dave Lombardo or something, or Nick Barker or Joey Jordison, and you would then say, yeah, that's cool, but just play it straight forwards and don't do that, to do this, all of a sudden you're cramping on his personal ability, his artistic nature, his creativity. So you don't want to tell Richie Blackmore how to play that solo. You just let him play the solo, because that's how you get the best Richie Blackmore on it, for example. And so I think that contributed a huge lot. We didn't try and over direct each other. we just allowed each other to breathe and just to be that personality. And then Jeff Manchester, he produced the whole thing, mixed it all together, and it came out drier. He wanted a closer, more intimate feel than was on Arvia.
Mm.
So we could aim at that thing. Go, this is who we are live. This is the intensity we like. This is the the release that we get from playing live, where we can all share in our same anger and our same joys, and we wanted to give that onto the album. So it's very much much like Arvia was a tribute to the fans. This is very much the fans are with us in this, just like they are through the live shows. So that was the intention.
Nice. Yeah, I think you really capture that. I mean, it's, from as soon as that needle drops, it just boom. It feels like a live, yeah, exactly like you said. It feels I think you really captured that intention of a live performance. Yeah,
Great.
I adore it.
Well, some people, what one of the criticisms as well that I saw initially was the length of it. We were getting marked down on points because it was a bit long, 58 minutes or something, and people going, it's a bit long. But I thought, when I did the reissues of Primeval, Wastelands, Temples of Ice, I did them as a box set, and it took me like 15, 16 years of chasing to be able to get those licenses.
Yeah.
I put them out as a box set, and when I put them out, one of the first things people were saying to me is there no extra tracks you could have put on? So it's like, well, so what you're telling me is if I put 10 tracks on, you wish there was 2 bonus tracks. But if I put 12 tracks on, that's too many tracks. So I guess we should have just called 2 of these tracks bonus tracks. Right. And then that would have sat very well. But even given its length, I don't feel that you notice it going by. For me, I wanted the feeling that, much like Slayer did for me on Rain and Blood, each track is its own thing, but the whole theme together works so beautifully that you got 28 minutes and you don't realize it's over until it's over, and then you think, wow, and you want to put it on again to take that trip again. And I very much wanted that feeling. I wanted to feel like you were getting into a car, we were starting the engine, and we just put our foot on the gas. And you were getting enough time to wind the window down, light your cigarette before you having to put it out for the next song and put the window back up. So I wanted to get that motion going,
Nice.
And so it was a good feel.
Yeah, that's, and I'm actually surprised that there are people that think it's too long, because exactly what you said. As soon as that, side D finishes, A is back on. Like every time I listen to it, I'm down here in my studio, and I end up down here for 2 hours because I re-listen to the entire album because I want more. I think it's great. I think it's great. It's fantastic. I was curious about so you mentioned that you had written 6 songs and Jeff wrote 6 songs. Now, is that complete composition, or with lyrics and everything, or because you're usually the lyric guy, right? You kind of is Jeff just kind of coming up, not just, but is he coming up with riffs and kind of basic song structure, and then you're developing the lyrics for all the songs?
I mean, well, we kind of combine the whole thing. Sometimes he will have sometimes he will have a title, or he'll have a lyrical idea. And then we work on it together, and we look for hooks that work, and he likes hooks, so he'll have some kind of hook line if he's got a favorite that he's written, and he'll have an idea of how it wants to go. With this one, I think we ended up with 12 songs each, so it was 24 in total, and we selected from those songs the songs we thought would make the first of 2 albums, and so we were quite happy with that. But I think we almost, maybe because of pandemic, maybe because we couldn't get to each other, that we did our compositions completely. So Jeff's compositions are music and lyrics, and I varied on some of the themes vocally, but the compositions were his, and the same for mine. So I guess that way we presented a kind of complete thing. On Arvia, it was a bit different. When we did Arvia, obviously Jeff wanted to produce, and they were throwing some producers at us, and I just wanted to support Jeff because he wanted to do it, the production. And I just when they asked me, do you think he can handle it? And I was like, He wants to handle it, and I have faith. And who would know your band better than somebody in your band?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
said we could go to a producer who could make us sound great, but would it be us? Whereas Jeff's going to make it sound like us because he knows what we're supposed to sound like. So
Yeah.
that's why we went with that. And so him doing it for the second time was not a discussive point. It was like, well, obviously he's going to know what we want to sound like. But like I say, on all of it, we worked lyrically together. Some ideas I had, some ideas he had, and we morphed them from there. But because it was early days and I was handling all the management, the company, the touring, and basically, I just said to him, "Listen, I don't have a load of time to sit writing songs. Why don't you just go through your riff catalog and all of your stuff and just send me ideas. If you get stuck, I'll get to writing." And we'll see how it goes. But everything he sent me, I loved. He sent me a track. I go, yeah, love that, in the bag. And then he sent another one. I go, yeah, it's fucking great. Stick that in the bag. And all of a sudden, we were at the album length. So I just said, okay, just let's stop there. Let's just work on those. So it wasn't intentional that he was going to write all the music. It was practical. We did it practically. And then we worked on the rest of it together. Whereas this time we set out straight away to present compositions and then see how we went. And probably we wouldn't have done them all of the complete tracks each separately as far as compositioning go if we didn't have pandemic. But because that prevented us, we just thought it's much easier that we just keep going. And then we left it open to interpretation. So if I got one of Jeff's tracks and I saw something in it that I thought was really cool, we'd then expand on it, or we'd, maybe look at the arrangement. And he did the same for the tracks I was presenting. So we did still keep that critical idea going of examining the stuff. We didn't just go, here's a song, just do that, leave it as it is. We developed the ideas. So, and that became very exciting. And I think, Abaddon had a particular style, which we tried to mimic on Arvia, but Jeremy could take that old school particular power and that stuff that Jeff really likes with the double basses and stuff. But then when we kind of ramped it up, because I like that really aggressive, like and Jeremy is death metal as well. So it just gave us more to the palette. We could paint all over the place, and I knew he could handle it. The nuances between kind of jazz as offbeats almost, and then blast beats, and then straightforward metal where he had to have the power. So it made it even more exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, yeah, it's just such a high energy sonic experience. I was curious about and you touched on this a bit, but I was curious as when you and Jeff decided, okay, let's do a follow-up album. Let's start working on a follow-up album. Did you have, and I realize that it's an organic experience. It takes time to develop it, but did you come into it going, here's what we kind of want to get, like here's the basic vibe we want to get, or the themes, thematically this is kind of what we want to shoot for, or is it more like, let's start writing songs and see what happens?
I think Jeff is very productive. He's always writing. He's always in the studio writing riffs, and he catalogs them, and he would tell everybody he met, I had a phone and it's got 280 riffs on it, and it's like, yeah. So he just catalogs all the time. Whereas I don't work like that. For me, the music's up there somewhere floating around, and so are the lyrics and the song titles. And when I sit down with the guitar to write, I just start playing, and it just writes. It just starts to write, and then the music, once I've completed, then tells me what it wants to say. It gives me the title, and then it tells me what the words are. So I very feel like I'm a conduit to it happening. Whereas Jeff is much more structured in his way. He likes to go through things, what works, what keys, and he structures it in that way. And he has a bank of stuff to pull from, so he'll try things out, and he still composes new stuff as well. But so I think going into it, it was a case of pulling out material or ideas that we had accumulated over the 5 years, and just listening and saying, this kind of works, that kind of works. But thematically, did I was always enthralled by albums that led into other albums, and mankind's journey through life, because of course we're older now, so you have that experience, when you're 16, 18, whatever it is. You're telling the man to go fuck himself. You're telling your parents to fuck off and get out your room. You're squaring off at your teachers and stuff. But at that age, you don't really know why. You just don't like anybody. You just think everybody's like out to get you. But once you get to like into your 50s, you feel the same. But now you know why. You know why that's why. So it's kind of like that journey. And what's always interested me is that dark side to that light side of humankind. On this side of your house, your apartment, there's somebody who needs some help, and you just go and help because they need it. And on the other side, there's somebody who parks in your parking space every other day, and it pisses you off, and you want to bludgeon them to death with a kettle or something. So, but you're the same person. So does that make you a good person or a bad person? But how we react to situations dictates which side of the moon we're taking, the light side or the dark side. And kind of that's always intrigued me, the mass murderer is never the skinhead with the bike parts in his front lawn, having the wasted parties with the girls and smashing up the pool. And it's the little lonely guy who goes to Walmart with his little plastic bag and doesn't bother anybody and is out on a Sunday, you're pruning his roses, and they go, oh, Walter, such a lovely guy. He's in his basement eating people. That's the guy. That's the guy. Right. So, those things intrigue me. And so initially the idea was to, we just started the compositions really, but I based kind of my route, and I talked to Jeff about this, kind of around Dante's Inferno. And your journey through life. And then I talked about the 9 circles of hell, the journey we go through with all that happens to us before we die. And that kind of was the route. That was where we were going. And I used the 9 golden circles as a spiral, because when Jeff had his death experience, he said he looked down and there was just this swirling spiral. So I was kind of working on that as an idea. What if he was beginning his journey into the 9 circles, and it was going to be split over 2 albums. And then one afternoon I was working at the computer, he sends me a track, have a listen to this, see what you think. So I had a listen. I was like, yeah, that sounds fucking great. I love that. Have you got any lyrical ideas? Because they started popping in my head.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I wrote all the lyrics. I said, oh, you've got them? I said, right, so what's it called? And he went, well, when I died, I didn't see my mom and my dad, or I didn't see any relatives. There was no like light at the end of the tunnel. There was no angels singing. It was just black. I just saw black. So I called it There's Only Black. And the moment he said that, the irony here is a light went on in my head. And I thought, that's it. Because that is all encompassing of mankind, of our journey. What is in a black hole? We don't know. Nothing. Oh, now there is something, but we don't know what it is. What's after death? What's after life? Death. What is death? What is it the end of the universe? How did the universe actually begin? There's these unlimited questions. With our limited knowledge of our environment, we discover America from Europe. We discover China from, we discover Japan from Europe. We discover Australia. We just, the Easter Island, we discover gold. We discover oil. We're pushing all the time to understand our environment. Why are we here? What is it about? Where are we? Understanding the moon and the planets and stuff. But our knowledge comes to a limit. Beyond that, we just don't know.
Yeah.
And There's Only Black made me think, yes, if you turn all the lights out, we lose all the power. If the sun goes out, if all the stars went out, what is there? Black. As far as we're concerned, there's only black. And that doesn't mean that's negative. There may be something at the end of that journey, but in order for you to discover your own light, you have to take the journey. So that kind of changed the whole meaning for me. And then all the songs kind of started to form together into that idea of mankind. You know, there's only black. Um, you know, meaning that you know, if you look at Japan, you had two nuclear bombs went off there, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those bombs went off, and even the next generation was still suffering cancer from,
Yeah.
you know, the radiation from that point. And yet here we are looking for cures for cancer that we can cause. So you're like, so we're causing cancer, and then we're looking for a reason to stop it. And then we're, you know, the virus, if it came from a bat, because people were looking into bats for viral, what the fuck? It wasn't bothering the bats, and now you gave it to us, and now we're looking for cures for it. It's like, but if we didn't look for the cause in the first place, we wouldn't need a cure because it
Yeah.
wasn't bothering us.
Right.
So that kind of anomaly, you know, what is it about? So, and I guess that led to changing the nine circles of hell, replacing death vortex with the black hole, you know, just an energy circle. So you go, well, what is it? I don't know. What is it? Well, is it an eyeball? I said, I don't know. If you look into someone's eye, you can see the color. If they smile, you can see the crinkles around their eyes. If they frown, you can see their eyebrows changing shape. But if you look into the blackness of someone's eye, they all look the same. They're just black,
Yeah.
but their soul is in there. So if you look into that void, take the journey, go in. You might find light. You might find your light. You might find your reason. It might save you. You might find nothing, but then it's your journey. It's not my journey, you know? So, and that's the interesting thing when you have a death experience, or, you know, you discover something. You know, each person has their own journey to it. We could both go up to the top of Mount Everest, but we both experience it in a different way. We'd see the same things, we'd be taking the same journey, but we would be different people when we got there. And that's what I find is so incredible about you know, human nature, is that, you know, one person's experience, even when it's copied, is not the next person's experience. There's slight differences. So that's the whole point of it in the end, I guess.
Cool. Wow. That's incredible. That's amazing. I love getting that in-depth view of what, you know, your artistic journey with this album, and what it really means, and you know, where you were coming from. It's really fascinating. I mean, you know, because I've read through the lyrics, and you know, and I try not to interpret too much. You know, I try to
Of course.
get what I can from it. But you know, as you mentioned, you know, I'm going to experience it you know, how I experience it, not knowing
Yeah.
the backstory necessarily. So that's really interesting. Is that it? Speaking of that, I'm curious. Are you ever frustrated with, say, a fan misinterpreting your lyrics, like what you were trying to convey?
Not frustrated with fans. No, I mean, you know, when I talked to the label about Nine and calling it Nine, and one of the label bosses went, "I don't think that's a good idea." I said, "You don't like it?" He went, "Nah, I think the concept's really cool." He said, "But who's going to get that? Your fans are not going to get that." And I went, "What do you mean?" He said, "It's too cerebral." And I was like, "So you think I should have a dragon with a crucifix on a horse killing a
Right.
demon with a?" And
Yeah.
I said, you know, that's everybody's doing that." I said, "I think you're underestimating the fans.
Yeah. Totally.
I think they will be puzzled, they will be curious, but much like the cover of Arvid, that will hopefully, you know, stimulate them, or you know, poke them in the ribs, so they have to think about it a bit more. What is that? What does that mean?" But
Yeah.
then that maybe they'll discover some, and maybe some fans, they just don't give a shit. They don't want to know about it. They just want to hear good music. So if you can combine those two things, so the more cerebral among us can maybe find something more, and those who don't want to, just want to hear the music, bludgeon them, then that's fine too. But I think it's not the fans, because they can be forgiven, because, you know, it's the same for me, you know. Um, you know, Ace of Spades. I remember Lemmy talking about Ace of Spades. That, you know, a more famous song is hard to find
Yeah.
than that, for example. You know, when he was questioning, they said, "Yeah, yeah, because it's about a card game," and of course it is. And he said, "You know, I don't play cards. I never played poker. He used to play fruit machines." And then they go, "So why did you write a game about playing cards?" He said, "Have you ever tried to write a song about a fruit machine?" And it was like, perfect. It's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
He wrote about gambling, but it was just cooler to make a Cowboys playing cards in Deadwood, you
Yeah.
know, and that that whole thing. And so, from a fan's point of view, it's like, you will interpret it the way you hear it. But that it's when you see reviewers or journalists tell fans what it is, and they miss the point. That's what annoys me, because it's like, well, hold on, you're telling other people what it is without actually doing your research or actually knowing that that's what it is. And so I would always welcome, of course, reviews are good, and you like the good ones and you hate the bad ones, but you shouldn't. You should like all of them, because they're individual reviews, and you can learn from the bad ones, as well as you can enjoy the good ones. So life's a learning curve, and you can see, was it too long? Even in retrospect now, I would have taken 2 songs off, because I heard a lot of people going, "No, it's a bit long." But then I listen to it and go, I don't think it's too long. It doesn't feel too long to me. But there you go. That's in hindsight. But I think that I would prefer fans to come and ask, which is why, doing this with you again, it's why these opportunities are so golden, because you can tell the fans the meaning without them being dictated to by someone who thinks they know and may not know, so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I like what you said about, the record exec, I think that's a misnomer. I think that, and just generalizing in terms of, metal fans, a lot of metal fans are really well read. Look at
more so. Yeah.
Iron Maiden wouldn't have been what they became because, I think, people were fascinated with mythology and history, and,
completely.
That's what attracted me to that band.
And I mean, you think of Bathory, or you think of the black metal movement in Scandinavia. Introducing people to Norse mythology, or Greek gods. When you look at rotting Christ, and you know what I mean. It's kind of a cultural revolution. They talk about, much like we do. You talk about things from your cultural background. And so, classics, or, bands like Van Halen, Just a Gigolo, or California Girls, the Beach Boys, American Woman, you think of these songs, it's like, Dylan was doing it, nobody's hiding their cultural side. They're giving it to the world. Everybody wanted to go to America because of the Beach Boys, what the Beach Boys sang about in California. The world wanted to get to California. They had the best of everything, but that was created with an air of this is what it's like to be Californian. Of course, we know the reality is not like that all over California. But it's that, and I think that to think the fans aren't as cerebral these days is crazy, because excuse me, because unlike when we were young, they have access to Wikipedia, the internet, YouTube. I mean, you can look up how to put a screw up your nose if that's what you wanted to do. How to paint an ant's ass. I'm sure there'll be a how-to video on YouTube or something. And so I think now they have much more knowledge than anything else. And there's nothing wrong if someone doesn't know anything about the Roman Empire to sing songs like "Time to Die" about the gladiators, like off Orville, and then have them, they know what the Colosseum looks like, so they understand, shit, this shit was going down there, and maybe that turns them onto a bit of that history. So again, it's like giving some knowledge, some awareness of their environment and the planet they're on, and the people that are on the planet, the history of that. So I think if they miss it, they miss it. But if the song's good, they can still bang the shit of their head out to it. And that's it. But if they're looking for more, you can find some more.
Nice. I love it. So with the new album, let's talk about live shows, touring. What do you guys have plans? What are you, what's the year ahead look like for you?
Well, we're coming to a close now this year. So we was due to do the American tour, and with I Hear God, and basically, because of pandemic, the US embassies everywhere were backlogged up, getting people through with their visas and stuff. They weren't even making a precedent of American citizens. They were just going, everybody's got to wait. So we did the application, everything got passed. We did all the legal work, paid all the money, quite a lot of money, and everything was okay. And then we got a note from the embassy. I got one in London, and Manchester got his in Portugal, that there was a backlog. So we would have to wait for our interview. Now, when you get a visa for America, you have to go to the embassy, you get an interview. Where basically they say, why are you going to America? We're going to go and play in a band. Why do you want your visa? Because we're going to go and play these shows and we get paid. And they were like, okay. And then they take your passport off you. You go away. They put in your P1 visa and send it back to you, or you go and collect it. So that's it. But so my embassy just said, listen, you have all your visas, so you don't need to come for an interview. Send your passport here to the embassy, and in 5 or 6 days, we'll send it back to you, which they did. But now Mantis lives in Portugal, and because of Brexit, he now has to have resident status. So the embassy ruling in Portugal is, if you are a resident of Portugal, you must attend an interview. You can't just send your passport off. Okay, so there was no way around it for him. And the embassy said there are no appointments until it was like a week and a half after the tour was supposed to start.
Oh, no.
So we were frantically trying to get them to see him earlier, and basically just so he could give them his passport to get his visa. But they were just going, that's the rules for everybody. No expedition. You have to wait. So we went up until the final hour, and it was like, right, they won't see him. So even though they'll see him the next day or 2 days later and he'll get his visa, they won't see him to give him his visa early, so we couldn't come. So I guess we had to pull out. So that we're going to reschedule for next year.
Cool.
But because we were doing 2 halves in the US, we're going to do the East Coast and then the West Coast. We're going to come straight to the West Coast, do the West Coast first, and then later in the year, come back and do the East Coast. And in between, we've got all manner of things happening. Japan,
Nice.
we're looking at Japan at the minute, Australia, New Zealand again, and a full European tour to promote the album. So just looking at the package for that at the minute. So but yeah, it's going to be quite exciting. It's going to be quite exciting. Yeah. So
really exciting. Yeah, I hopefully you're coming here to Utah with the West Coast tour.
We have to. We have to. We have to.
Yeah. We have to have a beer with me. So
absolutely. You're on.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Do you have any you've got not that it's not enough, that's a lot of touring, but are you doing any festival shows next year? Any big shows?
Right now, they've just kind of we were offered a couple of good festivals, which we're negotiating in a minute, and then literally today offered another 3 big ones.
Oh, cool.
So I've gone straight into negotiation about them, and South America's pressing for us to go down there. So just trying to fit things in. I think Jeremy is busy in May with Inhuman Condition, because they've got some shows set up, and possibly with their side again, because they went out with them when we did Bloodstock and Alcatraz, which is why we got Nick Barker in from Brazier and Excrela Filth and Jimmy Burger. We drafted him in to do the 2 shows because Jeremy was on tour, so, and we didn't want to pass them up. But we've got some big offers because we did Keep It True Rising, where we did the full Hammersmith show with the stage effects and ramps and everything, and everybody loved that. So we've got more offers to do the black metal album in total, because we did that in Alcatraz, Bloodstock, and then we did it in Sweden and Finland, which was quite big. We did the whole album.
Oh, cool.
Which was amazing. Yeah, so we're getting a lot of offers. People want us to do the album. So kind of thinking at the minute that I might do what Slayer did on God Hates Us All. I think that's a cool idea, because I went to see Slayer is one of my favorite bands, of course, and they did the God Hates Us All tour. And a journalist friend who now is the owner editor of Bass Magazine contacted and said, "Oh, do you want to come and see Slayer? They're playing in London." And Jeff was at my house, and I said, "Yeah, Jeff's here. Yeah, we'll come down." So we went to see the show, and they opened God Hates Us All, played the first half of the album, and then in the middle, They played all of Rain and Blood and then went straight back into the rest of God Hates Us All. And I was like, blew my mind. Watching Lombardo play non-stop 2 albums, I was like, fucking hell. It was just the coolest thing. So I think that it would be nice if we did maybe open the set with some new material, went straight into the whole black metal album, and then close with classics, the singles and everything, and
Cool.
Make a real good show of it, so that everybody goes away with something cool. Because when we began, the idea was to expose all audiences to Mantis and Abaddon, and not, and to fans that wouldn't have seen them otherwise, and to play songs that they never heard live, from any lineup. So, pull out Dead of the Night and all that kind of stuff, those songs that nobody had heard, Lady Lust and stuff, B-sides. And that was my intention, to drive that particular thing. Now we're in a situation where and people then misjudged it, thought, they're just a gimmick. They're just playing all that stuff as a gimmick. But they were completely wrong. They couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
It was totally fan driven. And then we made new music. So, but even though we made new music, I still want the fans to have, if Mantis is on stage, or Kronos or Abaddon, but if they're on stage in front of an audience, you want to see him play that favorite Venom song.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who else is up there, as long as you're watching him play that riff or him sing that song, and so that is the overriding factor. Not the politics, not the bitch slapping, not all the whining in the bathtub trying to kill your rubber duck. The real thing is the fans and the music, and that's all it is. And I think if you can't see those people together, why can't you see them separately then? You should still be able to see them and meet them. Why not? It's an opportunity, So that was the impetus. So we are in a good position where we get to play everything we want to play, and then we can play your favorite song as well, which is like the best thing in the world. To be going on to a show and have someone go, man, are you going to play, I don't know, Warhead tonight? And go, I don't know, maybe not. And they're going, oh man, please play it. It's my favorite. It means so much to me. To know that you're going to play that song and that person is going to hear it and feel that is the best feeling in the world. It's the best feeling in the world,
That's awesome. I love that. That's great. You mentioned, kind of circle back here a bit. You mentioned, earlier in this year, much earlier, towards the beginning of the year, you and it had taken you, as you said, 15 years to get this done, just with licensing and all that. You released the box set of the original 3. No, right there, perfect. Yeah. Oh, nice. Awesome. The original 3 Venom albums that you played on, of course.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite stuff, Primeval. Oh man, and Temples of Ice and Waste. Oh, it's amazing stuff. I was curious, so I have a couple questions about this. Well, one, you had mentioned that you had, people had asked about demos and things like that, or bonus tracks. Do you have a lot of material like that? Is that something you intend to release at some point?
Well, we put some extra stuff. A couple of extra things, not a lot, but I have them on cassette, if you believe that.
Oh wow!
Whenever we played any shows, I always like to take a cassette of the show, and in those days it was all cassettes. So I have a whole catalog of cassettes, live shows we did, live things we did, all accumulated. So I'd kind of like to. But the problem is, of course, it's a bit like, sometimes someone will tape a show on their iPhone and you'll see it on YouTube, and the sound isn't the best sound in the world, but the visuals look pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and I did it with an Atomcraft thing, which was 3 vinyl release or 3 CD release, 2 CD release, a double CD release and a 3 vinyl issue. And it was called Looking Back to the Future. And it was just an accumulation of bits and pieces and demos I had from the whole Atomcraft thing. And I just put them out. And I remember one of them was the demos for Conductors of Noise. Mm-hmm. And they were going, but it dips in and out some places and the sound sucks. And I was like, that's what happened to the cassette. And they were like, why didn't you clean it up and balance it out? I said, because that's what I was listening to. So it's like, it's as real as you being there.
Yeah.
You know, I got that tape. I listened to that tape, and it's worn and it's old and it sucks and the sounds are. But that's like you're me listening to it, and if I clean it up, I could re-record all the songs. But then it isn't that, is it? It isn't that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think one thing we carry with us, like when you walk into the wood store, to the Home Deco or Home Depot, and that fucking Wasp song comes on, all of a sudden you're 16 in that bar, all those emotions come up again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with music, it punctuates our life, you know. 16, 15, 14, 12, 13, the first time I heard, first time I saw, it punctuates our life all the time. And when you hear those songs, it doesn't matter how old you get, you're totally tethered back to that time in your life. And so because of that, I think it's important to keep those moments. So if I did put the cassette stuff together, they would be their moments. I wouldn't want to remaster them to an inch of their life and re-EQ everything. So everybody's like, oh, it sounds wonderful. I know that's what Jeff would do because, he wants the sound to be good and balanced. But that's the kind of anomaly between the two of us. It's like, I just want it to sound like, like it's
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? Because that's what it sounded like when we were there. It didn't sound like it was it wasn't fucking Lionel Richie's dancing on the ceiling. It was
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
being
Yeah.
hit with a plank on the side of the
Yeah.
head.
This is
But
fucking
that's what's
metal.
wonderful about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I mean, well, there was that album that was released. I think it's called Sons of Satan Venom. I have it on
Yeah.
vinyl, and it's early demos. Recorded in a church with a tape recorder. And yeah,
Yeah.
I read some reviews, and somebody's like, "This sounds like shit," and I'm like, "Yeah, doesn't it? It's beautiful."
That's exactly. If you think about that, I mean, nobody crammed into CBGBs in New York be, and expected they were going to hear the band being on their best behavior.
Right.
You went in there and it was just going to be a fucking riot with a lot of noise going on. So
Yeah.
it was expressive. And that's not to say the bands couldn't play or they weren't going to sound good on record, but the live is very much a moment in your life. It's a moment in time. And if you can capture that, visually, or you can capture that on an audio, why would you want to fuck with that?
Yeah.
And it's going to feel like you're there. So I think there's purists to look for that filtered end product. And then there's people like me, who, and yourself who just go, I want to be in that zone. I want to be there.
Yeah.
And with, like you said about the Sons of Satan, if you close your eyes, you know that the cassette player's in the middle of the room and who's standing around you making that noise.
Yeah.
You can lose yourself to that. You can lose yourself to that.
I think that's a great way to put that. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, when I put that on and that first time, yeah, like, as soon as that needle hit, I'm like, oh yeah, this is
Yeah,
I'm in that church. I'm in that abandoned church,
yeah. You're
listening
with
to
them.
this
You're right
echoey,
there.
like, yeah, they're playing into, some piece of shit, tape recorder they bought at, the department store, or
Yeah.
somebody's mom probably bought at the department store.
Well, the tape that Jeff still has that tape recorder. It was his father's tape recorder.
Oh wow.
And it was a big old one. It had the little microphone, and then you had to, which was not designed for recording a band, but you press play and record at the same time, and
Yep.
so it
Yep.
was and it was as basic as that. Even then, that was how you would record it. There was no fancy Zoom cameras with,
Oh no.
GoPros and then your audio pickup, and then you could stick it into Pro Tools and EQ it and all that bullshit. It was just like, if you wanted to hear yourself, that's how you heard yourself. And, those tapes would go, we would record rehearsals like that and then share them with each other to prepare for going in the studio, or to improve on the writing, or to expand the song. So they were really important lifelines. So they're more than just a capture of some audio noise. There's a whole history in that moment in itself, and
Cool.
so there's great value in that. That doesn't mean to say you're going to enjoy it as an end user, but if you realize the importance of it in any band's development, it doesn't matter how many times you see Kiss on a world tour with all the bangs and whistles, any handheld fucking shit VHS or beta video recording from them in a club in New York with not the same stage clothes on, a bit of naff makeup they put on themselves is going to be gold dust, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they're not going to sound overproduced, but it's not about that. It's about seeing them in that raw state before it all happened. And so, kind of, that's the idea. And I find that in a development of band really exciting, really, really exciting.
I'm right there with you. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, so I would, yeah, that would be cool to hear if you can release more of that stuff. That'd be great. Um,
Okay, well, yeah. Now you said that, I'm going to do it, and then you're
awesome.
taking the blame. If
Yeah.
anybody goes, "What the fuck is that?" I
Who's
guess
this
it wasn't
Victor
my
guy?
fault.
Fuck this guy. uh,
Yeah.
I was, and along the same lines with those three albums. Is there have you and Jeff ever discussed playing those albums live in their entirety in the coming
Well,
years?
no, not in their entirety. I mean, we've played Parasite, Primeval,
Yeah.
obviously Carnivorous and Black and the Priest. I think maybe that's about it from Primeval. We played Temples of Ice from Temples of Ice, but that's it. That's as far as we got to. But I think it wasn't on purpose. I think it was because the journey we were on. See, I wanted us to go all the way back to the beginning. So we played In League with Satan, Live Like an Angel, the first single. We played every song from Welcome to Hell. We played Die Hard, In Nomine Satanis, Bloodlust, bursting out. So we were kind of going through the catalog, Seven Gates of Hell, Warhead, and we were into A War with Satan. Where we played Rip Ride, Genocide,
Oh, yeah.
working on the idea of War with Satan. So I just thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we just traveled through the whole catalogue? So over a span of maybe 10 years, we played every song that had ever been done, Mistress of the Whip, all of that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Which would then take us up to those albums and we would play them in their entirety. But at the moment, we kind of, the other idea about playing new music and recording new music was but we still haven't finished playing all the old stuff. So if we add new stuff, fucking hell, how are we gonna play that? I mean,
Yeah.
the most amazing thing, which is amazing for me, and I always get a thrill from it, is when we sit down to look at playing a set list, because you could have like a 2-hour set list, and that you can stand on stage, play non-stop for 2 hours. And some shows, I think people misinterpret it, go that I'm unhappy when I'm performing, but sometimes I don't talk, not because I'm unhappy, because we've got a limited time. And if I talk for fucking England, so I'll be on for hours, as you know. So I choose not to talk so we can play more songs. So I'm not grumpy. I'm just going, right, get on with it. We could put another 2 songs by the time you've listened to me talk a load of shit. So that's my intention, was to get through them. So by adding new material was like, fucking hell. And of course, then you could put the best songs down, do a 2-hour set, and someone at the end will go, oh, I was really disappointed you didn't play blah, blah, blah. You're like, fucking hell. So it's like, everybody wants to hear everything, and we want to play everything. So that's the trick, is making sure you can deliver everything, So as much as I'd like to do those albums, all of the albums in their entirety, just for a one-off thing, maybe that's an idea. Maybe we'll look for a series of doing those. So we'll spend a tour doing one album and then a tour doing another album, and then, people will get it. Maybe that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Yeah, I would imagine it's got to be tricky to some degree to come up with those set lists when you have that much history and that much music, and like, okay, what are we going to play? And I mean, I'm sure you all have your own favorite songs you want to play, and then there's some fan favorites like, well, we have to play,
Countless Battery, Countless Battery in black metal. I mean, we cannot not play Countless Battery. We can't do it. And I've tried. It's like, it's impossible. Everybody's going, and we end up doing it and go, right, no Countess. And no, really, no, fuck it. Let's just put this in. And then we end up going back on and playing it, because it's like, the fans just want to hear it. And it's like, wow. So again, at the end of the day, that also underlines something that I was saying throughout this whole time, was that 40 something years ago, you're in a room and you write a song, and you're quite happy with the song, and you take it to your band and they think it's pretty cool, and you will work on it. You might do a demo, you might find yourself doing a record, and you put that song on the record. You don't think 40 years later that's going to be your encore every night if you go out
Yeah,
and play it.
I would
You just
imagine.
don't think like that.
Yeah.
And so, when we did the Keep It True set, because it was Hammersmith's show from 1984, we put everything in the order like it was played. And Countess Battery was very early on. It was like the second or third song in. And Jeff went, that Countess is in, it's too early. We should put it at the end. I said, well, 1984, it wasn't.
Mm.
In 1984, it was just another song. Now you have to put it at the end.
Yeah.
But then, so let's give them that experience. This is how it was then. And then, and people would comment on this on the set going, oh my God, you put that song there. And that became the standout song. And, but it was a nice adventure to feel this is what it was like when they were new. When the songs were owned by the band, before the songs became the fans. And now the songs are the fans. They're owned by the fans. They're the ones who bought them. They're the ones who listen to them all their time. They're the ones who invest in this music. They're the ones who come to your show to hear you play these songs. So they own the songs. So it's our job to give them a thank you for the support and for coming to the show to play those songs they want to hear, because that's their favorite songs.
Yeah.
And so we can do everything else. And we could even do it pretty badly. But if we play those songs great, they walk away going, amazing. It's just that, it's great.
I can't imagine you guys having a bad night anyway. It's like any live footage I've ever seen, you guys are on fire. It's and always tight. And I've watched a lot, but it's always, you guys are always like spot on.
I think like anything else, I take that as a massive compliment. Thank you. But I think like anything else, it's like, work ethic is a huge thing. Respect for your audience is a massive thing, and having fun. And I think if you have those things in combination, so you could do 50 shows in a row with no days off, and we've done pretty close to that in the past. But every night, it doesn't matter how you feel or how bored you might be getting or how tired you are or how sick you might feel. The audience that is seeing you that night, they don't have any of those issues. And they didn't see you last night, and they won't see you tomorrow night. So you should be as on it as you can tonight as you were every night. And so the first show of the tour should be as electrifying as the last show of the tour. That's your job. That's what you're there to do, to give everybody that value. And that comes from respecting your audience. So, I think, but we just have fun doing it. And that's massively wonderful.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across. I think when you see you guys playing live, it's obvious that you're having a good time. You're having fun with playing with each other. You enjoy playing with each other. And, you mentioned, someone maybe getting bored, or that's one, and you don't have to answer this necessarily. I am curious. I mean, are there songs where you're like, oh God, I play the same song again? Because I've heard other musicians, they'll talk about it like, yeah, but I mean, the fans love that. It's our big hit. It's our whatever song, and like I remember Jethro told Ian Anderson talking about, I can't remember which song, and it's some song he hates the song, like because he's like, hey, I wrote it when I was 20 years old. It's a stupid song. I don't want to play it anymore, but it's a huge hit, so we have to play it. But and they play it well. But he's like, oh God, this song. I
think that's it. You see this, you see a song written on a sheet, and for me, I think I'm not bored with any of the songs, but I think that I only think, shit, we could put some new stuff in. If we've got a short set, so we don't have like our headline set, so we can't do 2.5 hours, and we've only got 40 minutes or 50 minutes on a festival, for whatever reason, I want to put as much interesting stuff in, as much new stuff in as we can, as much more exciting stuff. But then I look and I think, we have to do these songs. But it's not so much in fucking hell, we have to do these songs again. Because the reason they're there is because the audience want to hear them. Yeah. And, it doesn't matter how we played Countess Battery. I don't know how many shows we've done since we began. but Countess Battery's been every single show, so more than any other song. So if I counted up how many times we played Countess Battery, but when we go out next year, the thing is when you begin that song and you hear, I don't know, it could be 500, could be 5,000, or in the case of Alcatraz, 20,000 people
Wow.
singing that song. I mean, there was more people there, but 20,000 at least was singing the chorus. I couldn't even fucking hear me singing, and I was at the microphone with the PA. And you have to think, wow, this is why we do this, because that amount of energy coming off an audience feeds you. And you think, this is why we exist. This is why we're here. These people are the reason why we're here. And that just gives you so much enjoyment, and think that's for me performing it. Think of for how what it is like for Jeff, who fucking wrote it and is
Yeah.
sitting there going, I was sitting on my bed writing this song, and now look what's happening. Or you know what I mean? It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
you only when you see it on paper you think, oh yeah, we got to do that. We got to do okay. Well, we won't do this, and then you start the song and people go lose their shit, and you're like, oh my god, this feels so good. You
Yeah,
realize
totally
like
worth
why
it.
it's yeah, always, always. It's like Lemmy going, everybody wants to hear fucking Ace of Spades. You know how many albums I've done? I've wrote better songs than Ace of Spades, but it's like. I know, and you can play all the songs you've ever written, but if you don't play Ace of Spades, I'll go, we're disappointed. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though he's delivered on everything else, it's because like I know, but it's so iconic. Just play it, just play it, just play a bit of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strange, yeah, but wonderful at the same time.
That is awesome. Well, Tony, as always, it's fantastic chatting with you. For all the folks out there, if you don't have a copy of There's Only Black, you need to pick it up right away.
Yeah, yeah.
Get it on CD, get it on vinyl. There's a link in the description below. Click on that link. Check out Venom, buy Venom Inc, buy their music. You will not be sorry. Just fantastic stuff. And again, Tony, thank you so very much. Cheers, my friend.
Always, as usually, always a pleasure. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure. And we'll get the boys. They were a bit sick. Sorry about that, but we'll get the boys back on, and you can talk to them, and we can do it again.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll see you live in the very near future.
Without a doubt, I think it's where I can't. Well, I won't give it a month, but we'll be coming. We'll be coming to you in Utah and to the West Coast. We're coming in the early part of next year, and then the East Coast, which we had to cancel because of the visa thing, we'll be back towards after the summer. So we will get there. We will see you, and the drinks are on me.
Nice. Thanks, brother. Cheers.
All right. Take care. See you.